Welcome. Here we are in cool Mandeville with Miss Emrie James. The museum at St. Andrew High School has been named in her honor. Miss James, thank you very much for allowing us to come to speak to you today about your experience and your work at St. Andrew High School. Earlier, you mentioned to us that you are the same age of St. Andrew High School. Would you like to tell us some more about the beginning of Emrie James and the beginning of St. Andrew High School?
Well, I went to St. Andrew High School in September 1944. The school was then, how old the school was then? It was 1925 it started, in 44.
19. Yeah.
Right. Well, I had friends, the Kincaid family, you probably don't know them, but anyhow. And they went to Jamaica High School for Girls, because that was the name that it was at the time.
Yes.
When I got there, it was already St. Andrew High School, so I didn't have anything to do with the origin of the school itself, like as I say. The fact that it was already that old, but it had such small beginnings. I remember that because I knew some of the girls who first went to St. Andrew High School, like Grace McHardy. She was one of the first students at St. Andrew High School, and she only died a few years ago, about 6 or 7 years ago. Her occupation was, I think she was head of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, and she was in a government post, and she would be one of the ones you would call a trailblazer, because in those days not many people had this kind of opportunity of being in that position, and she was, but she was herself very clear, quite clear. So I did know some of the people who had been in the school, but when I went there, as I say, I went there as green as grass. I found in Miss Gartrell and Miss Stockhausen, commonly called Miss Dodie or Stocking. It was like going to a nice home, going into a nice home. They were all so very, very kind and very helpful when I went there, because I was lacking in experience. I had a executive secretary certificate. I did some of the things I did in the town was there, like doing practical nursing, geriatrics, and this sort of thing. I did while I was there. But it was a very interesting time. I only knew that I worked very hard when I was at St. Andrew High School. There was nothing I felt that I could not be a part of. If it was the picking up of the patties or whatever needed to be done, I did it without flinching, and this is a fact. So I can say that of myself, not boastingly, but this is how it was. Something had to be done, no one there to do it, I would do it.
So you were like a jack of all trades.
And master of none. And master of none. But it grew on you. St. Andrew High School literally grew on me. And then with my own family becoming involved in the school, and there was borders and this sort of thing, it made it more personal even than if I was just there as a single person, because I had an interest in my own sisters, and especially after the death of my mother, as I say, who was only 52 when she died. So to me, St. Andrew was home away from home. I found happiness, I found love of staff, We all got on very well together. In those days, the boarding school, they had a system called the hold hand system, which meant there were always two members of staff on duty. But if a member of staff has a date or they want to go somewhere or they want to do something, somebody else would fit in. And so it became a very interesting thing because you didn't have to be tied down to the school. You could let yourself go and go where you want to go, or there's always somebody who would come in and help wherever help was needed. And Miss Garter, well, I remember in those early years, I gave a talk. I don't know how I happened to have been giving a talk at so early an age, but anyhow, I gave it. Today's children do that ad lib, but at that time, it was some of the churches, and they had, was it Mrs. Rockley? Mrs. Rockley was the person in those days, and she asked if I would speak to the girls on how they could improve themselves and what they could do. Having very little, if you had very little, what you could use it, what Louise Bennett would say, you turn your hand, make fashion. And this is how it was. So I remember those early years. Then there were the years in the canteen where I was interested. I used to be there helping with the canteen and with what knowledge I had of home economics. I did share it with the girls at that time, some of it, not all of it, but so they were there as a part of my life. Gladys, one of the early ones in the canteen, and people like Beverly Levy. Her mother was very helpful. She was American. She married she was Beverly Junior. She married one of the juniors, and Beverly is now, her husband owned Trident, which is now owned by
Michael Leachin.
Right? So that was how she was very helpful. She used to come along and teach the girls. That they had these classes, extracurricular activities. It was one of the extracurricular activities that they had.
We're going to go into part 2, Miss James, and when we go into part 2, we're going to talk about some members of staff at St. Andrew High School.
Some.